Don't blame it on the genes. And what do we mean by that? Well, we attribute a lot of dysfunction in the body, physiological dysfunction and disease and character traits, all sorts of things to our genetic code. But recent research by Ball and McMillan, and this is a book that they wrote, a few months ago, or very recently, it's in 2024, showed that our common conception of biology, in that our genes are responsible for diseases that we get, our predetermined risk for things. The way that we act, the way our body acts is very misunderstood. And in fact, the environment plays a tremendous role in all of it. And so let's supplement that with a few examples. So that's the drive home message for today. For those of you not as interested in the science, with the scientific verbiage, which apparently we use too much of, we're trying our best to make everything easily comprehensible, and just translate the message. The message is that, you should look at your environment, you should look at all the things you eat, you should look at your lifestyle, you should look at your habits in exercise and sleep and stress and all these things, and realize that they are very much so affecting your risk for major diseases, from schizophrenia and cardiovascular disease to cancer. Okay, so that far more than blaming it on the genetic code than on our unique genetics, right? And our luck of the draw, if you will. So, there are over 300 different genes that are responsible for giving someone an increased risk to developing schizophrenia, right? So 300 different genes. I mean, was it that the genes themselves are responsible for the schizophrenia as much as the environmental role and the effect on these genes and gene regulation and the risk for schizophrenia, right? Well, if it's that many different types of genes, and we have genes that code for things that do totally different things depending on the situation. Look at something like HCN4, right? Now that's a gene that codes for a protein that's involved in regulating your heartbeat. It's the major pacemaker, regulating electrical current in the heart, okay? But even people without that HCN4 gene have the natural ability to regulate the rhythm of their heart electrically, right? And so, it's not as much the gene there as it is, our body recognizing the fact that our body is extremely adaptable and pliable and able to react and adapt to any situation that it has to, right, if you will. Now, genetic code can predetermine a few things, right? And maybe the color of somebody's hair and eyes and things like that. Who knows? Even that, look at hair. Mine changed throughout my life, and that could be due to genetics or from the environment and what I was exposed to. Who knows? I was born with blonde hair. But even simple traits like that, this could hold for. But the genetic code still does play some role, of course, in how we look and how our body acts. But what's tenfold more important than that is the environmental effect on the genes. We have proteins that people think, okay, you have a protein and it just has this specific function. Well, the function of the protein totally depends on the environment. And these proteins will fold differently based on different stimuli, and they'll do different things, the same protein. Look at the example of aconitase, right? Now, that typically would regulate glucose metabolism, blood sugar levels. But if somebody's low in iron, then it promotes the influx of iron into red blood cells. So it went from sugar metabolism to iron intake just because somebody was low in iron. So the same protein, right? And so, it's not as much about genetics. Let's, and I'm not saying don't give yourself the excuse to shame anyone that has, these major diseases and major dysfunction in your body and has had poor luck and, whatever has happened to them, whether it be cancer or heart disease, all these things. We know that a lot of it's preventative, right? But of course, I feel for anybody that is suffering from some major disease, but know moving forward that you can make a big difference. Don't just chalk it up to the fact that you have these genes, MTHFR gene or all these other, and things that, other genes that will increase your risk for Alzheimer's disease, for example. It's almost all environmental. So you can make a difference. Don't chalk it up to the genetic code. Chalk it up to your lifestyle choices and the environment you choose to act on your body. That is what we got for you guys today. So let's see what we got on here. Say what's up to the people. We're going to go eat. Then we're playing poker later, baby. Bada bing, bada boom. We love poker. Anybody wants to play chess, let me know. Julian, we love that too. What's up, Raven Lips? James Costos. Ben Bryant. What's up, Yaz? How you doing, girl? Good to see you on here. Mianchi. Manel Salva. Veronica. Hello, gorgeous lady. Chris Presco. How you doing? Lim. Ben. Master Dave. How you doing? Happy Saturday, my man. You still getting it in the gym today? I'm sure you probably are doing something. I love California. And Brandon Malone and Rendaz P. As for now. That's all we got for you, folks. We'll see you tomorrow, baby. Not sure where, not sure when. But we'll see you then. Have a great one. Thanks a lot. And happy One Wellness. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Make some good lifestyle choices. And, affect your genetic code in the best way you can to minimize your risk for disease. Why is all this really important, right? It's important to better understand what causes diseases and how to treat them, right? Because we have this huge misconception with genetics and trying to affect things incorrectly, potentially, based on an improper predisposition, right? So, yeah, that's why we're talking about this. Have a great one. Thanks.